The diner buzzed with lunchtime chatter, plates clinking and orders being called out. Tamara moved with quiet efficiency between tables, balancing trays and warm smiles. In her late 20s, she carried herself with a grace that came not from training, but from lived resilience. It was a sweltering summer afternoon, and like many of her co-workers, she had rolled up her sleeves to keep cool. But unlike the others, her arms revealed something more: burned scars, faded but unmistakable, and a small tattoo near her wrist. Most glanced and looked away. But not the teenagers at table 6. A girl with bright blonde hair leaned toward her friends and whispered, loud enough to be heard. "You sure those scars aren't from prison or some junky mess?" The others snorted with laughter, eyeing Tamara with a mix of curiosity and cruelty. Tamara paused, the tray still balanced in her hands. She had heard it all before, every assumption, every whispered judgment. Without a word, she turned to the table, offering the same practiced smile she gave every customer. No anger, no defense. Just calm. She placed the drinks gently on the table, her hands steady despite the insult. As she walked away, her smile faded ever so slightly. Her eyes, once soft and tired, now held the familiar weight of old pain. She'd learned long ago that silence could be stronger than words, and dignity wasn't about how others saw you, but how you carried yourself when no one cared to know the truth. The door chimed as an older man stepped into the diner, the kind of customer who didn't need to be greeted, his presence alone commanded quiet respect. He moved slowly, leaning on a weathered cane, dressed in a plain jacket adorned with a small veteran's pin. Frank, a Vietnam War vet in his late 60s, had been coming here for years, always taking the same corner booth, always ordering black coffee and a turkey sandwich. Today, though, something felt different. As he settled in, his eyes scanned the room and paused on Tamara. He noticed the way she worked, efficient but quiet, almost too quiet. There was strength in her stillness, but also weariness. She walked over to take his order, pen and notepad ready. As she leaned slightly, Frank caught sight of the tattoo on her forearm, the faded ink almost hidden by the scars. But he recognized it instantly. A jolt ran through him. His voice, usually gruff and clipped, softened. "That tattoo, is that Echo Unit? Medic Corps?" Tamara blinked, surprised. No one had ever asked. "Yes, sir. Kunar Province." Frank stared at her as if seeing a ghost from a memory he'd never fully laid to rest. His hand trembled slightly. "You served there?" She nodded. 2 tours. Something in the air shifted. The mocking chatter from earlier seemed far away now. Frank leaned in, eyes glistening, a whisper caught in his throat. The waitress they'd overlooked was no ordinary server. She was someone who had seen hell and walked out of it. Tamara hesitated as Frank gestured toward the seat across from him. It wasn't typical for her to sit during a shift, but something in his eyes, part awe, part grief, made her pause. She glanced around, then slowly slid into the booth. Frank leaned forward, lowering his voice. "You said Kunar Province. Were you there in June 2011? Echo Unit Convoy?" She nodded, her voice quiet. "IED blast on the mountain pass. I was the only medic in the last Humvee." Frank's breath caught. He swallowed hard. "My nephew. Mike Ralston. He was in that convoy. He didn't make it home." Tamara's eyes flickered. She took a breath. "Mike. I remember him. Red hair. Sharp sense of humor. He helped calm the others, even when he was injured." Frank clutched the edge of the table. "He rode us from the hospital," said a medic pulled him out of the fire. Said her arms were burning but she never let go. He called her an angel with fire in her hands. Tamara looked down at her scars, then back at Frank. "I stayed with him. Till the medevac came. He was brave." Silence filled the booth, heavy and reverent. Frank's eyes brimmed with tears. All these years. I thought I'd never get to thank her. And here you are, serving coffee in a small-town diner. Tamara gave a small, sad smile. I just do what I can. But in that moment, to Frank, she wasn't just a waitress, she was the reason a family got to say goodbye. Frank slowly rose from the booth, his cane steadying him as he looked around the diner. His voice, though weathered with age, carried clearly across the room. I want everyone to hear this, he said, eyes sweeping over the diners, pausing, especially, on the group at table 6. This woman right here, she's not just your waitress. She's a combat medic. A soldier. A hero. The chatter stopped. Forks froze mid-air. All eyes turned to Tamara, who now stood beside the booth, clearly uncomfortable in the spotlight. Frank continued, voice growing more emotional with each word. She saved my nephew's life when their convoy was hit in Afghanistan. She carried him, with her own arms burning, out of that fire. He called her an angel before he passed. The teenagers who had mocked her earlier looked down, shame written across their faces. The blonde girl's cheeks flushed with guilt. This country's full of people who talk big but don't know sacrifice, Frank added, his eyes hard now. This woman didn't ask for thanks. She came back home and just kept serving, like she always has. A few people began to clap. Then more. And soon the whole diner was on its feet. The sound of hands coming together echoed louder than any insult spoken just minutes before. Tamara stood still, eyes glistening, stunned by the sudden shift. She wasn't used to being seen, not like this. And certainly not honored. For the first time in a long while, her scars didn't feel like something to hide. The sun dipped lower in the sky as the lunch crowd cleared out, leaving the diner quieter, more intimate. Tamara wiped down the counter in silence, her thoughts still swirling from the moment earlier. She wasn't used to that kind of attention, certainly not applause. As she turned to refill the coffee pot, she noticed one of the teens from table 6 standing nervously near the register. It was the blonde girl who had mocked her. She stepped forward, clutching a crumpled napkin in her hand. "Hey," she said softly. I didn't know. About your past. What you did." Tamara looked at her, not coldly, just quietly. "I'm sorry," the girl said, eyes wet. "You didn't deserve what I said. I was being stupid." Tamara nodded slowly. "Thank you for saying that." The girl left, a little lighter than she came in. As Tamara turned back to clean up the last booth, she noticed something on the table where Frank had been. A generous tip tucked under a coffee mug. And a handwritten note on a napkin. "Thank you for saving Mike. You're more than a hero, you're hope in human form. Never forget that. Frank." Her hands trembled slightly as she folded the napkin. For a long time, she had believed her sacrifices belonged to a past no one would ever understand. But today, someone did. And for the first time in years, Tamara walked out of the diner not just as a waitress, but as someone finally seen.